Ngai be machire. Ngai be machire. Tenai. Tenai mare. Tenai mare. Tenai mare. Tenai mare. Ngai be machire. Ngai be. Oya yakacha. Ngai be machire. Tenai mare. Tenai mare. Tenai mare. By the power of our ritual, by the power of the word, by the sound of the drum, come on, let all the people, Libo, 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 Libo. Greater than the power of evil. Yeah. The power of good is greater than the power of evil. Yeah. Which God is not celebrated until the voice of the righteous is heard. Let the voice of the righteous be heard. Let the voice of the righteous be heard. Yeah. Let the voice of the righteous be heard. Father heaven, Mother earth, Zumukro, great ancestors, Tenai Mare, Tenai Mare, Tenai Mare, Tenai Mare, Tenai Mare, Tenai Mare, chant unto make we burn down Babylon, make we burn down Babylon. Make your plan, make you come, Badabe. Inamia. Sinna make you come, Badabe. Inamia. Come in and come here, be make Badaration. Come here, we can't And me say, Sinna, come out, come out, come out, come out. And me run the sin of them, run the sin of them, run the sin of them. Sinna, come out, come out, come out, come out. And me and me not come here, people.
Moderation.
Holy come here, we can liberation. Sinna kumo, 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 kumo. Amia. We call on to Mukuru, our great ancestors.
Yeah.
Hey, we call upon Mukuru, the great ancestor.
Yeah.
The tongue of Mukuru, the great ancestor.
Yeah.
Mukuru, Kebala.
Uyai, uyai, uyai.
Kebalan. Mukuru, Kebala.
Uyai, uyai, uyai.
Yai mama.
Uyai,
Yai baba.
uyai,
Yai mama.
uyai,
Yai baba.
uyai,
Yai tibeo masimba.
uyai,
Yai tibeo rozibo.
uyai.
Kushinga. Yai tibeo chikumarero. Uyai.
Uyai,
Uyai.
uyai, uyai.
Great ancestor Mama Africa.
Come.
Great ancestor Mama Africa.
Come.
Great ancestor Mama Africa.
Come. Uyai. 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 Tendai Mare. Yeah.
Those of ancient times to those recently past.
Tendai Mare.
We summon the spirit of Mukuru, our great ancestor.
Uyai.
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 Call upon the great ancestor. Those who give culture and civilization to the world.
Uyai.
Those who give mathematics to the world.
Uyai.
Science and technology.
Uyai.
Philosophy and theology. Astronomy and astrology. Architecture. Those who give language and communication to the world. Those who give theology to the world. Builders of the first schools, the first colleges, the first universities, the first hospitals. We call upon our ancestors, builders of the first nations, the first empires, the first kingdoms, the first civilizations. We are here. creature upon the planet.
We are.
We call upon those ancestors,
We are.
those who maintain the spirit of resistance,
We are.
those who refuse to accept oppression.
We are.
Call upon those ancestors.
We are.
Yai!
Yai.
Yai!
Yai.
Yai!
Yai.
Warriors, Costa warriors,
Yai.
Ndebele warrior,
We are.
Shona warrior,
We are.
Herero warrior,
We are.
Nama warrior,
We are.
Kikuyu warrior,
We are.
Masai warrior,
We are.
Makongo warrior,
We are.
Lingala warrior.
We are.
We call upon the Yoruba warrior,
We are.
the Ijao warrior,
We are.
the Igbo warrior,
We are.
the Ashanti warrior,
We are.
Fante warrior,
We are.
Ewe warrior,
We are.
Ga warrior,
We are.
the Oromo warrior,
We are.
Tigre warrior,
We are.
warriors of Sharpeville,
We are.
Soweto,
We are.
Haiti,
We are.
Palmares,
We are.
Yai,
We are.
Civil Rights warrior,
We are.
Rastafari,
We are.
Black Power warrior,
We are.
Black Panther warrior,
We are.
Yai,
We are.
We are.
We are.
Heal them.
Tendai Mwari.
Call upon the mothers of our history.
Yai.
Call upon the mothers of our history.
Yai.
Queen Mother Goddesses of our history.
Yai.
Those mothers of our history
Yai.
conceived and gave birth to generations and generations of powerful African nations.
Yai.
Call upon the mothers of our history
Yai.
and pray that the spirit of African womanhood, the authentic spirit of African womanhood,
Yai.
be restored unto the African woman in this time.
Yai.
We call upon Queen T,
Yai.
Amos Nepatari,
Yai.
Buyanehanda,
Yai.
Queen Makeda,
Yai.
Queen Kaina.
Yai.
Call upon Queen Nani,
Yai.
Nandi,
Yai. Yai.
Uyai. We call upon Queen Afrika Bantu.
Yai.
We heal our queen, our Sister Nkechi Ode.
Yai.
Queen Mother Moore.
Yai.
Call upon Sister Jana Uyai. Francis Cresswellson.
Yai.
Call upon the King Babas of our history.
Yai.
Yai. We call upon the King Babas of our history.
Yai.
We're going to start with the spirit and mission child of the great prophet we hail today, as we await the narrative which will be delivered by Brother Shakara. We call upon the fathers of our history.
Yai.
We call upon thee, spirit and mission child of the eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Papa Omawale Malcolm.
Yai.
Priest Lumumba.
Yai.
Dedan Kimathi.
Yai.
Osache Kwame Nkrumah.
Yai.
Mwalimu Julius Nyerere.
Yai.
We call upon King Prempe.
Yai.
Kamenin.
Yai.
We call upon Pianke.
Yai.
Kahaka.
Yai.
Shabaka.
Yai.
Yair.
Yai.
Call upon Bookman.
Yai.
Bookman Doti.
Yai.
Call upon Makanda.
Yai.
Bossa.
Yai.
Flat.
Yai.
Yai Paul Bogo.
Yai.
Yai. We call upon our brother Doogie.
Yai.
We call upon Walter Rodney.
Yai.
We call upon Maurice Bishop.
Yai.
Yai. We call upon our own elder brother, our big bro, Brother Gamba Kokai.
Yai.
We are here there. We call upon Ras. Come on, where is me brato no way.
We are
Here there. Tenamwade. 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 God lives. God lives. God lives. Mosiah lives. Mosiah lives. Mosiah lives. He lives. Tenamwade. We are about to repeat the narrative of the life and the legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We repeat the narrative every year without fail because we understand that we are a people of spirit. And as our spiritual mother, Mama Marimba Ani says, African life is replete with ritual. It is through our ritual that we relearn what it means to be an African. And so in the repetition of the narrative of the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, we are relearning what it takes to be an African. We are relearning what it means to be a warrior African. An African ready and willing to take on the challenges of what it needs and means to be an African in today's world. We are imbibing the spirit of all of our warrior ancestors, knowing that they continued a work and that work is unfinished today. And we have a responsibility to continue that work. But we can't continue that work if we don't know what the work was. And so through our ritual, we remind ourselves of the work. And we remind ourselves of the character that it takes, that we need to imbibe to complete the work. We are not here today, kings and queens, to engage in the vain worship of personality. But we are here unapologetically to engage in the veneration of the character of a great one of a great movement who came in the name of universal improvement of the African people of the world. And so when we say Mosiah, we understand that we are not just speaking about an individual man. We are speaking about the manifestation of the collective consciousness of African people. The collective consciousness of African people in the desire, the will to be free and liberated came to us and encapsulated itself in the person of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Deep within the desire, the heart, the spirit of the African was the desire, the will to be liberated. And so when we carry that will in our mind, our body and our spirit, the manifestation of the most eminent prophet and king is inevitable. It must come. We needed a being with the skill and the craft to inspire us with the vision of African liberation. And so we are here to honor that spirit today, kings and queens. So we repeat the narrative, understanding the sojourn of our history, being trafficked from our motherland, Mama Africa, and being taken to some places that they call Jamaica, that they call San Domingo, but that we rename Haiti, that they call the United States of America, that they call St. Lucia, that they call Dominica, that they call Trinidad. And we understand that all the way through from the shores of our motherland to the Atlantic, through the Atlantic to the Americas, that we were continuing to fight, kings and queens. And in the spirit of that fight, there were some Africans
who were never enslaved. Why? Because as soon as the ship hit the shore of the land in the Americas, they ran away and found themselves in the hills and the mountains and the gully. And those Africans became known as the Maroons. And we are made to understand that through the lineage of the father of the most eminent prophet and king, that the most eminent prophet and king is a descendant of those Maroon ancestors who fought the Spanish, who fought the British, and it was the Spanish that called them Maroons. But we understand that they are more properly called the Cromanti, or the Yankunu. Cromanti or the Yankunu ancestors, who continue to fight oppression, enslavement, and colonization. And so we begin. Let us begin by calling on the name of the preeminent of our Cromanti ancestors on the island of Jamaica, a warrior ancestor, a warrior mama ancestor, who is the most preeminent, who encapsulates the spirit of our Cromanti ancestors. In honoring the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet, we begin by honoring those who preceded him. And so we're going to call on the name of Queen Mama Nana, or Nani of the Maroons. Oyayi. We call her Mama Nani, Nana, and all our Maroon ancestors, our Cromanti ancestors, particularly those who are directly in the line of the most eminent prophet and king. And in calling on them, we know say the most eminent prophet and king never dropped from sky, kings and queens. He had a mother and he had a father. And we're going to begin by calling on the name of the womb from which the most eminent prophet came forth. A woman who was a deeply spiritual woman. A woman who conceived of 11 children, only 2 of which lived to a significant age, kings and queens. But a woman who, when she was conceived of the child that became known as Marcus Garvey, knew that this one would live, knew it would come to term, knew that it would grow and mature, kings and queens. A deeply spiritual woman who Papa Garvey described as too kind and generous for the time in which she lived. But she was a giving woman, a charitable woman, a woman who would serve her community. Anybody could come to her door, and what she had to give, she would give. This is the testimony of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, about his mother. We're going to call on the mother of the prophet, a woman by the name of Queen Mama Shara Jane Garvey. Can we hear that, please? Oh, yeah. And as we know, kings and queens, where there is a mother, there is a father. And Papa Garvey said his father was in many ways the complete opposite of his mother. Where his mother was kind and gentle, his father was vexed and stern. Where his mother was reserved in her spirit, his father was a complete extrovert. But one of the things that we learn is that his father was a stonemason. He had a craft, and he taught his son the value of hard work. He taught his son the value of study, because in the home there was a library, and he gave his son unfettered access to the library. He wasn't the most huggy father. He wasn't the most kissy father. But he taught his son to work hard and to study. And he was always at war with the colonial administration on the island of Jamaica, kings and queens. And in many ways, the most eminent prophet and king was, in character, the combination of his mother and father. We're going to call on the name of Baba, King Baba, Marcus Garvey Sr. Oh, yeah. As Papa Garvey would grow and mature, there were many others who were to inspire and to ensure that he was to fulfill the destiny of his Ori. The Ori, as taught by our Yoruba ancestors, is the head, the consciousness. And before we ascend to the earthly plane, we make a covenant with our Ori. We know what our destiny is here to fulfill. And so we have to honor those who contributed to developing the character of the most eminent prophet and king to ensure that the agreement that he made with his Ori could be fulfilled. And in doing so, we're going to first begin by calling on his big sister. One of the most valuable lessons that we learn about many of our greats, especially the men, is that they often have a big sister who is pertinent and very important in their life, kings and queens. When Papa Garvey came to the UK in the year 1912, he came to meet his big sister, who helped to finance his trip. When he was traveling throughout South and Central America, he was in part funded by his big sister in his travels. And so we're going to honor the name of Mama, Queen Mama, Indiana Garvey. Hello! Oh, yeah. There were two men on the island of Jamaica who were very instrumental to the development of our prophet. One was his uncle, who was a printer by trade and gave him the gift of the printing trade. He goes by the name of Mr. Alfred Burroughs. Oh, yeah. Then we have one of the godfathers of the movement that we know of as Pan-Africanism. A man who was one of the early anti-colonial freedom fighters. Me miss somebody. Hold on there. Within Papa Garvey's personal lineage, we understand that one of his uncles, yes, was a part of the rebellion known as the Morant Bay Rebellion, led by a man by the name of Paul Bogle, in a parish by the name of St. Thomas, that they call the Forgotten Parish. Why they call it the Forgotten Parish? Because St. Thomas is where we preserve the Obia, and the Kumina, and the Voodoo in a St. Thomas. St. Thomas is where Leonard Percival Howell was born, founding father of Rastafari. I forget the name of the uncle, apologies. But we want to call on the ancestor Paul Bogle, and the uncle, paternal uncle of Papa Garvey, who took part in the protest and the demonstration that preceded the Morant Bay Rebellion, and also the Morant Bay Rebellion itself. Can we call on the ancestor Baba Paul Bogle? Oh, yeah? In the great line of divine Pan-African warriors, there's a man who started an organization called the National Club. And I've been very fond of saying that it is organization that produces leadership. One of the first incubator that cultivated the leadership potential of Papa Garvey in terms of organization was the National Club, an anti-colonial organization on the island of Jamaica. And it was led in part by a man by the name of Dr. Robert Love, who was connected with many Pan-Africanists throughout the world. He was connected with people like Baba Martin Delaney. He was connected with people like Baba Edward Wilmot Blyden. He was connected with people like J.E. Casely Hayford and Adelaide Casely Hayford. And Papa Garvey said this was the man who gave him much of his early education in race consciousness. We're going to call on the names of the ancestors who preceded Papa Garvey, beginning with Dr. Robert Love Oyai, Baba Edward Wilmot Blyden Oyai, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner Oyai, what is that? Baba Stanley Clark Oyai, Benito Sylvian, and all the great ancestors who preceded Papa Garvey and from whom he learned. Come in, Baba John Redmond. But he's a contemporary, yes, we're going to come to it. 10-9 warning. To clarify, I'm dealing with the ancestors who preceded Papa Garvey. I didn't call Martin the lady, didn't I? Did I call Martin the lady? I must have. I can't forget Martin the lady. 10-9 warning. To clarify, I'm calling the ancestors who preceded Papa Garvey but didn't necessarily organize with him. Baba John and Bruce was a part of the UNIA. I'm going to save him and come back to him. 10-9 warning. Everybody all right? So we get to the point where we have to remind ourselves of the making of Mosiah. The making of Mosiah. Papa Garvey, knowing, learning and studying of the conditions of his people, decides that he wants to do some first-hand research. He wants to go and see and visualize our people where we are, everywhere we are. And he begins by traveling to South and Central America, to places like Panama and Costa Rica and Cuba. And as he says, studying the condition of our people. And he recognizes and realizes that we are in a very degraded and destitute and colonial condition. He begins working, as many of us did during that time, in various industries, particularly in agriculture and mining. And while he's in Costa Rica, he's working in a mine for a mining corporation. And the working conditions of the people are poor. The pay of the people is poor. And so the people begin to organize to start a strike. And the workers approach Papa Garvey because Papa Garvey is in a position of what is referred to as middle management. He's between the big bosses and the workers because he's a timekeeper. He's meant to keep the workers in check. And so the workers approach him with their grievances and ask him to lead the strike. And the bosses, the big bosses above Papa Garvey, call him to a meeting and say, Marcus, we are doing a lead strike. No. We have this for you and that for you and this for you. If you betray the workers, betray the strike action, and side with us. The management said this to Papa Garvey. And I don't know if he said this in so many words, kings and queens. But effectively, he told them to go to hell. And he sided with the workers and led the strike. Can we hear them, please, kings and queens? He then travels to the United Kingdom. He studies politics and law at Birkbeck University. He travels to Germany. He travels to France. He travels to Spain. Studying the conditions of African people. He learns from seamen who work on the docks of the condition of Africans on the continent. He's learning about the conditions in Liberia and in what was then called the Gold Coast and the Ivory Coast and the so-called Union of South Africa. He's learning from brothers and sisters from the continent about the continent. He studies up from slavery by Booker T. Washington and learns of the conditions of Africans in America, the United States of America, that criminal settler colony built upon the genocide committed against the indigenous people and the enslavement of our ancestors. And he said he asked himself, travel all about the world, studying the conditions of our people. And he said, where is the black man and woman's nation? Where are our kings and queens and kingdoms? Where are our armies, our navies, our men and women of big affairs? He said, he looked around and he found none. Then he said to himself, I, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, will help to create them. There's two key words in the statement, kings and queens. The first one is I. He said, I will help to create them. The second key word is help. We miss that one sometimes, kings and queens. Papa Garvey knew that this was not the job of one individual man. He said, I will help to create them. So really the I was really I and I. It was I and the I who was a part of I. I and I will help to create them. But it started with himself. He made an observation and realized that based upon his observation, he had an obligation. And so based upon that, kings and queens, the vision of the Universal Legal Improvement Association and the African Communities League of the World was found. He arrives back in Jamaica to found the association. And one of the first members is a great African woman. A great African woman by the name of Queen Mama Akuswa Bwahema. Akuswa Bwahema, also known as Queen Mama Amy Ashwood Garvey. One of the first, I will call her Akuswa Bwahema because when she traveled to Mama Africa to search out her personal lineage, she was given and reclaimed the name Queen Mama Akuswa Bwahema. We must call that name more often, kings and queens. But she became the first leader of the women's division of the UNIA-ACL, its first secretary, and her family, in her family home, is where many of the first meetings of the UNIA-ACL was held. Can we honor the name of Queen Mama Akuswa Bwahema, Amy Ashwood Garvey? Oyaye! Hello! Tenamwari. Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. As we go forward, there are many brothers and sisters, ancestors, without whom the UNIA-ACL would not have been what it was. Bearing in mind, this is an organization that grew to a membership of somewhere between 10 and 12 million people around the world, in over 40 countries, kings and queens. It built a military wing called the Universal African Legion. It built a military wing of women called the Universal Motor Corps. It built and developed a health and social welfare auxiliary called the Universal Black Cross Nurses. It built media, the Negro World newspaper. It developed the Black Man newspaper. It developed the Universal Negro Factories Corporation, which employed over 1,000 African people in the borough of Harlem, New York alone. This is a great organization. In 1920, the UNIA-ACL elected a government in exile for the liberation of Africa and African people. And there are many, many great ones who contributed to that legacy, kings and queens. Let us call a few of their names. We're going to begin with the personal secretary of the prophet, who became his partner in liberation, his kindred spirit, his wife, kings and queens, the woman without whom much of what we know about the prophet we would not know. The woman who kept the files, the woman who organized the secretarial duties of the UNIA, the woman who founded the page in the Negro World newspaper, Our Women and What They Think. She was among the preeminent organizers of the UNIA ACL and the preeminent protector, preserver, and defender of the life and legacy of Papa Garvey and the UNIA ACL after the passing of Papa Garvey, kings and queens. We need to know more about the life of this woman. And in saying that, can we give thanks for Queen Mama Nzinga Asata for her book, The Women of the Garvey Movement, whereby she reproduces and publishes many of her essays, kings and queens. This is the woman through whom the legacy of Papa Garvey was preserved in life as she gave birth to 2 children. We're going to call their names a little bit later on, but for now, let us honor and call the name of Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey. Oh, yeah. Papa Garvey is known to have said that he would do better in the work of the UNIA ACL if he had more women, as opposed to a lot of the fenke pia man there. That's what he said. That's what he said. And that's because, kings and queens, there were many powerful leading women of the UNIA ACL. And we're going to call a few of their names very quickly, beginning with one of its international organizers and commissioners, a woman who Papa Garvey said was the greatest gift to the Negro race, a playwright, an actress, head of the Universal Black Cross Nurses. She goes by the name of Mama, Queen Mama, Henrietta Vinton Davis. Oh yeah! We're going to call on, I didn't say that, international organizer, I didn't say that, tonight warning. I'm just going to call a few names of women of the UNIA ACL, and we're just going to chant Oyaye. We're going to call on Mama Louise Little, the mother of Omowale Malcolm X. We're going to call on Madame Demina, one of the members in the ranks of the Universal Motor Corps. And we're calling those names as representatives of all of the powerful African women of the UNIA. We're going to call her one more name. A name of an ancestor who passed only recently, about 2 or 3 years ago, as I remember rightly. She was born and raised in the movement. In fact, she says that she was born during the International Convention of the UNIA ACL of 1922. And her mother was in the gathering, and water broke in the middle of the convention. And our mama said that her mother was trying to hold on and wait till Garvey finished speaking before she was rushed to the hospital. But this woman is important because she died, she passed away at the age of 90 odd years old, 96 or 97, in the island of Jamaica, still an unrepentant Garveyite, kings and queens. Hail her. Here they are. Did you get the opportunity to meet Mama? Brother Leader had the opportunity to meet Queen Mama Mariam Samad. Oh yeah, yeah. One more. Another ancestor who joined the movement at 17 years old and also passed away in her 90s. Still an unrepentant Ghaziite. She is often referred to as the mother of the reparations movement, kings and queens. She goes by the name of Queen Mama, Queen Mother Moore. Oh yeah, yeah. Now I know what Papa Garvey said, but there were many strong, purposeful, worthy African men in the UNIA ACL Kings and Queens. And we're going to begin by calling on the name of one of Papa Garvey's inspirers, who became one of the key organizers of the UNIA ACL in the time of Papa Garvey. He was a Jegna, one of the inspirers of Papa Garvey. He was a teacher to Papa Garvey. When we talk about the Liberia program of the UNIA ACL and the connections with the motherland, it was this ancestor through whom a lot of those connections were made. When there were attacks against Papa Garvey and the UNIA ACL, it was the pen of this ancestor, along with others, who was most vociferous in defense of our nation in the making. This is a man who was honored as a supreme commander of the Order of the Nile. He goes by the name of Baba John Edward Bruce. Oh yeah, also known as Grit, because he was a bad man, you know, rough and tough. He's known as Grit. We'll call the name of one of the King Babas of the UNIA ACL to represent all of the powerful King Babas of the UNIA ACL, an ancestor who was responsible for leading one of the delegations that the UNIA ACL sent to Liberia when they were beginning the nation-building effort on the continent of Africa. This man led one of the delegations in the year 1924 to Liberia. He is the author of a poem by the name of When You Meet a Member of the Ku Klux Klan. A very good poem, kings and queens. We all need to read it. And if I remember rightly, he says, when you meet a member of the Ku Klux Klan, stand firm and hit him like a natural man. And he instructs us to call on our wife and children to see us go to work. This man, a very key member of the UNIA Kings and Queens, and his story touches me. You know why? Because when he was on his way back from the trip to Liberia, he contracted pneumonia and he passed away on the ship with the delegation Kings and Queens. And his life story is, to me, a lesson in terms of the sacrifice of our people. That we have to look at the story of the UNIA ACL beyond just the name Marcus Garvey and Amy J. Garvey. Millions of people sacrificed for this. And all of their names are worthy of mentioning, are worthy of remembering, are worthy of pouring libation to kings and queens. We're going to call on the name of Baba Robert L. Poston. Remember that name, kings and queens, and when you're reading, you're going to see that name come up again. For the sake of time, we're going to move on. As far as the ranks of the UNIA-ACL are concerned, there are many President Generals. And little as we know, there is in fact an unbroken line of leadership from Papa Garvey until now. We're not going to call on all of the names of the President Generals. Some of them are still living. But to represent all the President Generals, I'm going to call on the name of two. The first is a graduate of the second school of African philosophy convened by Papa Garvey between the years 1937 and 1940 when he passed away. The School of African Philosophy was convened to train the new leadership that would follow Papa Garvey himself. And I believe this Baba was the top graduate of the school. And when he was called to the school, he says he had a bit of an arrogance about him. He said he was organizing in Papa Garvey for how much years? He don't know what else Garvey have left for teaching. And apparently Papa Garvey said to him, Charles, you think you know, but you don't know. Why? Because I haven't taught you. And so he humbled himself and entered the school, and he became the top graduate for that cadre of the course. He went on to become President General of the UNIA-ACL. He was the President General when the book Message to the People was published by Baba Tony Martin. And if you look in the book, you will see that he wrote the introduction. The reason why I'm calling his name in particular is because he traveled and visited the UK in the year 1983, was it? 84, or somewhere around there. But he visited us in the UK, kings and queens. He is the teacher of another President General of the UNIA-ACL, Baba Senghor Jawara Baye, through whom we facilitated our reconnection with the UNIA-ACL. And in fact, I'll tell you something. Baba Senghor Jawara Baye is a graduate of the course of African philosophy through Charles L. James. I am a graduate of the course of African philosophy through Baba Senghor Jawara Baye. So we give thanks. Send that worry. But we're going to call on the ancestor Baba Charles L. James. Oh yeah. Send that worry. The second President General that I'm going to call on happens to be the eldest son of the Prophet, who passed away only last year, kings and queens. A man who we were scheduled to bring into the country in the year 2004 before hearing that he had come down with Alzheimer's. He came down with Alzheimer's whilst he was the President General of the UNIA-ACL, kings and queens. An unrepentant Garveyite who dedicated himself to preserving and continuing the work of his father. And one of the reasons why we have a UNIA-ACL today is because he humbled himself to the elders that were taught by his father. And they put him forward as the leader of the organization. There are many messages of him on YouTube today, one of which he was accompanied by Baba John Henrik Clark, who was ministering on the life and legacy of Papa Garvey. I encourage you to watch it because you'll see a snippet of the UNIA-ACL in action during the 1990s. But let us honor the name of a man who was an engineer by trade, a brilliant African, and also an educator. He goes by the name of Marcus Garvey Jr. In saying that, we're going to honor the second son of Papa Garvey, Baba Julius Garvey. We're not going to pour libation to him because he's still here on the earthly plane. But just honor the second son of Papa Garvey, Baba Julius Garvey. You live? Tenda Mwari, can we please stand? Can we please rise? Can we please rise? Tenda Mwari. One more name we're going to call before we call on the name of the Prophet himself. We always have to remember the family, yeah? I saw a picture recently of Baba Walter Rodney alongside his wife and their 2 children. One of the things that we forget about our great revolutionary leaders is that them is somebody, son or daughter, wife, yeah, papa, uncle, auntie, and so on and so forth. I saw a picture of Walter Rodney, his wife and 2 children. And we can forget that Papa Garvey had a family. And so his big sister, Mama Indiana, had a daughter who was also instrumental to preserving his legacy, but particularly in relation to the family itself. And so we're going to pour libation to Mama Ruth Prescott. Uyaye? Tenamwari. So as we conclude and approach the conclusion of our libation in the narrative Kings and Queens, we remind ourselves of the words of Papa Garvey. Papa Garvey said, "We shall wait patient if my enemies are satisfied in life. I shall come back even to serve you as I served before." He said, "We shall wait patiently for 200 years, if need be, to face our enemies through our posterity." What's posterity? Those to come, our children, our children's children, and our children's children. So we understand that in the vision of the prophet, he understood that the liberation fight was not confined to any individual lifespan. So he said, "Look for me in the whirlwind." He said, "Look for me in the whirlwind." Nitafute Kwenya Kimbungu. Look for me in the whirlwind. I said, Nitafute Kwenye Kimbunga. Look for me in the whirlwind. For I shall come back. By himself? No. He said, I shall come back with countless what? Millions. Hold on there. What did I hear me say now? The man began by saying, I will help to make them. That's what he said. Then when him dead and gone, him not done yet, he said he will come back with countless millions to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life. We are here to affirm that when we say Mosiah lives, we are the whirlwind and the storm of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We understand that it is our responsibility to step into the eye of the whirlwind, step into the eye of the storm, and generate the kind of energy, the kind of current to forward our people towards the meeting of our enemies 200 years, if needs be, kings and queens, towards the vision of African liberation. And so we're going to conclude the narrative and our libation by raising up the name of the prophet himself. I'm going to call his name 3 times, reminding ourselves that when we say Mosiah, we're dealing with a being that manifested and represented the collective consciousness of African people in the will to be free. I'm going to call his name 3 times. After each calling, we're going to repeat the word sound, Uyai, which means come. And on the final Uyai, we're going to extend the Uyai, hail the prophet, and all of the ancestors named and unnamed, thus far kings and queens. Raise the vibration, and as we raise the vibration, we affirm our role to help to create our nation, our civilization, our armies, our navies. We affirm our responsibility to be the men and women of big affairs. Tenamwari, Baba Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Baba Marcus Mosiah Garvey. The most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Garvey lives! Garvey lives! Messiah lives! Messiah lives! Messiah lives!
Can we hear Shakara here? Garvey lives! Like you mean it, brothers and sisters. Garvey lives! Mosiah lives! Heal him! Heal him! Tonight, Mary, as we conclude the pouring of our libation and the utterance of the narrative of the life, the legacy, the indomitable spirit, as we evoke the indomitable spirit of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, we hear all of the ancestors whose spirit was poured into this great man even before he was born. Hence the premonition of his mother and subsequently his father that they were about to give birth to an extraordinary child, one who would be like a Moses unto his people, using biblical reference. And we, as we stand here, are the recipients of that powerful, colossal legacy. The question is, what will we do with it? What will we do with it? Let us, as we continue in our posture of reverence before our sacred shrine, let us commune with our ancestors.